Welcome to the BEASTwriter podcast. I am your host, Ryan Sakamoto, and tonight we are going to be discussing the blockbuster deal involving Matthew Stafford to the LA Rams. So let's get started. Now, for those who are new to following me, thank you for tuning in. I know I picked up some subscribers over the course of the last few days, and I just wanted to give you guys a heads up on how I run my podcast so you know what to look forward to moving forward. The first parameter is who are the players or coaches involved. The second parameter is why the move was made or potentially could be made. And the last but not least parameter is the instant gratification versus long-term gains. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about the players involved. Well, in this case, it's Matthew Stafford. He's the hot topic in this blockbuster deal. He is a 2009 first-round pick, drafted number 1 overall. He's been on some very poor teams over the course of his career in Detroit, which is nothing new in Detroit. He had players like Barry Sanders, Calvin Johnson, the list goes on and on and on. There's been great players, but they've just been on crappy teams. I don't know what else to say. So Matthew Stafford is an aging quarterback. He's going to be turning 33 by the time the new league year starts. And he's a 12-year veteran, but he does still put up great numbers despite the fact that he doesn't have an offensive line, limited offensive weapons around him. So he's still showing that he can get things done without a strong supporting cast. Let's just look at the numbers, for instance, right? He had a 96.3 passer rating. A 96.3 passer rating, so that ranked 14th in the NFL. Not bad based on the supporting cast that he had around him. Obviously, he had a first-round running back in DeAndre Swift from Georgia, and they also had Kenny Galladay, but he was only good for 5 games out of the 16, which moved up wide receiver Marvin Jones to WR1 instead of his normal WR2 role. And then, of course, obviously the team has Daniel Amendola, but aside from that, not much, right? Not much. And he still put up 4,084 passing yards, which ranked 12th in the NFL. And he had 26 touchdown passes, which also ranked 12th in the NFL. So when you put that all together, what are you getting? You're getting a top 10 to 12 quarterback in my book. And statistically, those stats are only going to balloon because of the fact that he has a stronger supporting cast with Robert Woods, Tyler Higbee, Cam Akers, Cooper Kupp. I mean, those are all upgrades at the positions that he's been accustomed to in Detroit. Nothing against those guys, but let's just take that into account. And then you got to double down on that and look at who's calling the plays, Sean McVay. So when you have Sean McVay as the head coach who's running his scheme and Stafford is the perfect offense for that scheme, what do you think is going to happen? It's going to be crazy in the Wild Wild West. All right, so Matthew Stafford coming to the LA Rams is an upgrade over Jared Goff. And while his stats were a bit misleading in Detroit, it's going to be ballooned because he didn't have a strong supporting cast, right? And I don't know. I know people were hitting me up, like, oh my gosh, I thought he was going to the Niners. All these sources that I hear about people tweeting stuff out like, oh, it's like as if it's a done deal. Like nothing was a done deal. Yeah, even I heard from my sources that the Niners were interested, but I never called it as fact. I never said, oh, it's a guaranteed done deal. So like when people put things out there like that, your credibility is all you have. That's all I'm saying. And I'm not gonna speak for anyone else. I'm not throwing shade at anyone. I'm just saying, like, for me personally, when I say something as fact and it's coming from my source, I better be right. I better get it right. There is no room or margin for error to get it wrong. Otherwise, the amount of followers that you gain in that short amount of time frame, you'll lose twice as many, if not more, in the time that deal goes wrong. Just saying it and just putting it out there. But anyways, getting back to the trade, the Lions get, again, 2 first-round draft picks over the next 2 years. Remember, they don't have the Rams at this point, they don't have a first-round pick in this year's draft because of the Jalen Ramsey deal. So again, they're giving up first-round draft capital over the next few years, and they are also giving up a third-round pick in this upcoming draft. So the kicker on why Matthew Stafford was getting so expensive in terms of making this blockbuster deal is based solely on Jared Goff's contract. Jared Goff, his contract was a lot for the LA Rams. In fact, $106+ million is what the Detroit Lions are accepting or tackling in this case over the next 4 years. So in order to take on that big money contract, you're going to have to give up something in return. And any new GM that comes into a new regime, he's going to want more darts at the board and high darts at the board, which is why he yielded 2 first-round picks as compensation on top of the third round in this year's draft. So if you're asking me who won this deal, I think it comes down to looking at it from a financial standpoint, and then also looking at it for instant gratification versus long-term gains, which I just pointed out earlier in the podcast. So for me, I think from the Rams perspective, let's go ahead and talk about that. The Rams obviously get an upgrade at quarterback. Matthew Stafford obviously is an upgrade over Jared Goff. I think anyone can say that. I don't think anyone's going to argue me on that. It's kind of pretty much fact. Matthew Stafford is the better quarterback, okay? And then you want to take into effect the salary, not much salary cap relief, but the contract and salary cap relief that you wipe your hands clean of Jared Goff and you're shipping it off to the Detroit Lions. Like I said earlier, it was a deal that yielded 2 first-round picks in return as compensation for taking on that contract. And the Rams obviously get an upgrade at quarterback. So the instant gratification for the Rams, but the long-term gains of making this deal based on the draft picks that they're giving up, I would say that the Lions got the better deal. Now let's look at the Lions. Let's look at the Lions' perspective and from Brad Holmes' perspective. Remember, Brad Holmes was the director of college scouting for the Rams when they drafted Jared Goff. So you don't think that he's going to be married to Jared Goff in the new regime? There's been talks that now, are the Lions going to take a quarterback at number 7? If you watched my podcast earlier on picks 5 through 10, I said that Justin Fields would be the quarterback with the Detroit Lions at number 7. However, my line of thinking has now changed. If I'm the director of college scouting and I pounded on the table for us to take Jared Goff, and then I bring him over to Detroit when I become the team's new GM and taking on $106 million worth of money, what makes you think they're going to draft a quarterback at number 7? Because let's face it, number 7 is now going to be a hotspot for a trade for Justin Fields or Zach Wilson. Everybody's going to be vying for the top 3 quarterbacks in this draft. Trevor Lawrence is already off the board at 1 to the Jacksonville Jaguars. So now you're playing it a 2-man game. Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, pick your poison. There's going to be teams that are going to want to climb up into that early half of the draft in order to land one of those quarterbacks into the top 10. And with the Detroit Lions now sitting there at 7, they hold all the cards. They can use huge smoke screens leading up to the draft. Oh, we like Zach Wilson. We want to upgrade at every position, and we're going to leave no stone unturned because we believe that we need to do our due diligence. And yeah, we hear it all the time, but it's all smoke. In this case, it's all smoke. They got Jared Goff. They're going to use him as the quarterback of the future. He's not a bridge or a stopgap. I would be shocked if Brad Holmes drafted a quarterback at number 7. In fact, I think what he's trying to do is build up the hype for Justin Fields or Zach Wilson, who possibly will be there at number 7, and depending on who the Atlanta Falcons pick. And we still don't know what's going on with Deshaun Watson. But at the same time, if push comes to shove and he's sitting there at 7 with Justin Fields on the board, and all this time leading up to the draft, it was all about Justin Fields. Oh, Brad Holmes was at Justin Fields Pro Day. Oh, Brad Holmes was at BYU Pro Day. Oh, the director of college scouting for the Detroit Lions, they're doing their due diligence on quarterbacks. You were going to hear it on the NFL Network. I'm sure it's coming. But to me, I'm just going to... It's all smoke. It's all smoke because they know, they're not dumb. They know how to play it. It's reverse psychology. You want Justin Fields? Oh, we're going to take Justin Fields. When really they're not. Just to build up the hype to get more draft capital so they can trade out, have the team move up for that quarterback, and then have more darts at the board. You can look at the Lions draft needs right now, and there's a plethora of needs across the board. Outside of quarterback, outside of running back, because they drafted DeAndre Swift, you're looking at, and tight end, obviously you got TJ Hawkinson, but then you look at offensive line, defensive line, linebacker, cornerback, safety, strong safety. The list goes on and on and on. So if you're Brad Holmes, obviously you want draft capital, so I'm going to hype up Justin Fields and Zach Wilson all I want. Even if that's true, and I do like them as quarterbacks, you're not going to draft a quarterback when you already invested $106 million in Jared Goff. I'm just putting it out there. So from a financial long-term gain standpoint, Brad Holmes wins this deal because now he has draft flexibility at 7. He can hype up the draft capital to trade down for a team trying to move up and get Justin Fields, or he can stay pat and take the best player available to give Jared Goff a player that he can work for the foreseeable future in a guy like Jalen Waddle. So these are options that are endless. And then you take it a step further, right? Let's peel back another layer of the onion to get to the core. We're just talking about this year's 2021 NFL draft because they also have a third-round draft pick, which we just didn't discuss, but now they have a 2020 third-round draft pick. But now let's look at the 1-year outlook, the 2-year outlook, the 3-year outlook. The Lions now hold multiple first-round picks over the course of the next 2 years, 2022, 2023. So again, they are going to get draft flexibility because they can manipulate the draft how they see fit because they have leverage owning 2 first-round draft picks. Now, again, they can either move up for that coveted player in the first round, they can trade down and get more draft capital. Brad Holmes is doing everything he can to get as much draft capital as possible in order to make this team a contending team in 2 to 3 years' time. And how do you do that? You win in the draft. Plain and simple. You heard it here first. So that's what's going to happen. That's my take. I'm sticking to it. They're not going to take a quarterback at 7. They're going to roll with Jared Goff because Brad Holmes, like Jared Goff coming out of college, he's going to stick to his guns, invest $106 million in Jared Goff over the spread over the next 4 years. And then at number 7, throw out those smoke screens for Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, hype it up so you can, again, get draft capital in return in a trade down for someone desperately trying to move up for that quarterback of the future. Well, that'll be it for tonight. I hope you liked what I had to say. If you did, please hit the subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner of your screen as I keep all things Beast. Thank you for tuning in. Have a good night. BEASTwriter out.